act like adults and don't do childish things. Now, let's get into what's going on this topic. So I needed to speak on this because we deal with UNA University, and there we learn how to stand as sovereigns. We understand what the term means. It's not just okay to just say, oh, I'm sovereign and that's what I am. Well, you gotta act like it. You can't just say I'm this and then you act a different way. There's that biblical saying, and I like these biblical sayings because they really ring true when we really understand what's going on in this dimension. But that biblical saying, it says, when I was a child, I thought like a child. I acted like a child. I reasoned like a child. But when I became a man or an adult, I had to put away childish things, or I had to put childish things behind me. That's Corinthians 13:1. Why am I talking about that and bringing that up? Because of the simple fact that, as I've said and I've said before, I'll say it again, when you become a sovereign, it's not about just thinking you can do whatever you feel like you want to do. You must take responsibility, all right? Meaning you must act as an adult. So I need to get into what this term sovereign means. Because yes, once you become sovereign, the system can't really deal with you the way they deal with everybody else. You're out of their reach. However, it does not give you authority to just act any kind of way. As a matter of fact, you have to be responsible now. You have to become accountable now as an adult, as a sovereign. So let's understand what this term means, because it's really been bastardized. All right, those in this game are trying to make the term sovereign out to be, they're using it with the term sovereign citizen. All right, they're trying to use it as though it's the term, use it with this term sovereign citizen. And let's understand that the term sovereign is next to godly. You're saying you're standing under God. That's what you're saying. And so as a sovereign, it means that you are master of self. Let's understand what that means and where that comes from. As a citizen, all right, you're under this government. What does government mean? Govern means to control. Ment means mind. Government means control of the mind. So as a citizen, you're really acting as a child. As a citizen, you had no standing. As a citizen, you sat. All right? This is why we have the hierarchy of law chart, if I can show it here. When you purchase the beginner law book, you're going to have this, all right? But as a citizen, you're down here at the bottom of this chart. But as a sovereign, you're up here. Sovereign means a master of self. This is important to understand because down here you sit as a citizen, up here you stand as a sovereign. Now, when you become sovereign, what ends up happening is, yes, the system can't deal with you, once again, in the way they deal with all other people. But you still have a responsibility to act as someone who has mastery of self. Now, I need to go into this, what mastery of self is and why that's important. Now, as a citizen, what you had been doing is acting as a child, and there's this government that is over you, telling you what to do and how to act and how to behave. All right. And so now you're feeling like, well, I'm an adult now. I don't want you telling me what to do. Okay. So now it's not just a matter of you saying, hey, all right, I'm going to put this paperwork down and now I'm an adult. There are laws that you still have to respect, and they're called the universal laws. You still must respect these laws because it doesn't matter. Again, I said this before. I've seen gods on all kind of levels. on a microscopic level, on this level, and I'm letting you know that every last one of them that I have seen, they have come under these laws. When they were not in order with these laws, they met up with their doom, and it had to do with these laws. Nobody escapes that I have seen these laws, these universal laws. And once again, if you don't have the beginner law book, I encourage you to go and get the beginner law book at unauniversity.com. Okay, so we're understanding now that once you have established that you are a sovereign, that there still are laws that you need to respect. What does that mean? Why, Diva, what you talking about these laws? We know the law. Okay, I'm good. I'm good on that. Okay. These universal laws deal with whatever energy you put out must come back. Whatever energy you put out must come back. So when we're talking about that, some of y'all call it karma. Let's understand and make it very clear that karma is a universal principle. It is a universal principle, and what it deals with is when you put an energy out, it must by law return to you. Okay? So some of y'all think, okay, well, we know about karma. All right, karma good. Now, see, the problem is that a lot of you all are not recognizing that when you are receiving an energy, it is because you put it out somewhere else. So this is why we talk about sovereignty, because of the simple fact that when you become sovereign, you don't need a government anymore. You don't need someone to control your mind anymore, because you're controlling your own mind. You're controlling your own third dimension. You always have been doing it, but see, because you had been acting like a child, you needed the government to step in and help you deal with your matters. Pay attention to me, because I'm going into child support. I'm going into helping you understand about the child protective services and all these other things that's going on in your dimension. Pay attention, because I'm ready to get into it. Okay. So you got to understand that when you are sovereign, that means you're master of self. That means you're fully recognizing these laws, and you're fully recognizing that it is you who is creating your third dimension. You are. Okay. So now, when you're talking about being a sovereign, there are certain things that you don't partake in. For example, as a sovereign, you know if something doesn't belong to you, you don't take it. You don't steal. When there is an issue, you resolve that issue like an adult. You don't go fighting people and hitting people and shooting people up. No, you resolve the issue through communication. That's what adults do. Children go out and shoot people up or do harm to somebody because they don't know how to speak. That's what somebody who's not in control of self, that's what a citizen does, which is why you need a government, because you don't know how to behave. But some of y'all might be thinking, but Diva, you know, people do dirty stuff and they break into your house and then you need a government. They break into your house when you steal stuff. When you steal from somebody else, the law says that it has to be returned to you. You're going to get things stolen from you. So if I'm seeing people who are constantly in a situation where they need to call on the police, I understand who you are. Once again, we talked about attracting things to us. So when you're attracting things or when you're receiving energies, it is because you put that energy out. So at what point do we start understanding that when we walk in sovereignty, when we're walking in our sovereignty and we're recognizing these laws and we're in full honor of these laws, then you don't need a government. You don't need to call on the police. You don't need to call on child protective services. You don't need to do all of these other things that these other people out here in society do, because you are sovereign. You're master of self. I'm ready to get into this. I hope y'all understanding, because these laws, the universal laws, these are the main principles that make up the basis of this dimension. And once you understand them, that's when you really become sovereign. Once you start to walk them, that's when you really become sovereign. Not just because you say, well, you know, I got some paperwork down, and then I did the authentication on my birth certificate, and then plus I put a trust in there, and then I did the IRS.gov thing. No, that doesn't make you sovereign. Because if you put out energies and you think, for example, we know that in certain states, marijuana is not quote unquote legal. Okay. And you feel that you want to sell it or you want to take it through the airport and do whatever you feel like you need to do. Okay. Understand that when you're doing certain things, there still are laws and repercussions that you have to deal with. If you are, for example, stealing things, going back to that, and you think nobody saw you, there is an energy you just put out, and you have to deal with the repercussions of that energy.